Welcome back to another edition of Conversations Different, the Santa Fe New Mexicans podcast about the interesting issues and people of northern New Mexico. This is Inez Russell Gomez, and this week we are talking to two individuals about one of my favorite events of the summer, traditional Spanish market. With us is Peter Sanchez, the CEO of the Atrisco Heritage Foundation, and Brian O'Connell, who is Chief Operating Officer for the same foundation. We'll start with you, Peter. Thank you guys for coming, first of all.
Thank you for having us.
Why is the Atrisco Foundation, and what is it, and why is it involved with Spanish market?
The Atrisco Heritage Foundation is the outgrowth of the Atrisco Land Grant, which is a Spanish land grant established 400 years ago, or 300 years ago, but a presence in this community 400 years. So as we came forward in time, we actually managed to get into the 21st century as a land grant, and we finally sold our land as a people, and we tried to reinvent ourselves in a fashion that would be supportable to the community. So we created nonprofit entities and have built ourselves on a collection of nonprofit entities. The most widely known one is the Atrisco Heritage Foundation, and its purpose is to support the culture of our community and the history of our Atrisco land grant in our community. So being that we're a Spanish land grant, and our now new mission in life is to be sort of cultural preservationists, when we crossed this opportunity to become the stewards of Spanish market, it just seemed like such a perfect fit for who we are and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, because that is the original mission for the Spanish Colonial Arts Society, is to preserve the Spanish tradition and culture and arts that came and were developed over the colonial period, both in the Spanish and the Mexican eras.
Yeah, we had our eyes set on a few different art organizations and never thought this was one that might become available. It turned out just the best thing that could have ever happened. Much better than the other ideas that we had. So we were really grateful when this opportunity came about, and it's been so far a wonderful experience for everybody.
Oh, I love that, because as someone who grew up in Las Vegas, New Mexico, where they had artists, but we didn't know it was art. I remember having my grandma trying to teach me to do embroidery.
Right.
And then as an adult covering my first Spanish market and finding out that had a name and it was an art form.
Right.
And I never actually accomplished it because I just bled over everything. But it was really moving to find out my grandmother knew an art form that I never realized, existed.
Right.
Now, Brian, what is your role in helping with Spanish market and with the Atrisco Foundation?
So as COO, it's really up to me to make sure that the event gets off the ground and that people have a really elevated experience. I've got a program lead. Her name is Brisa Chilton Garcia, who's new to our organization, but has just jumped in. And so she's the contact with the artists, and we do everything from contracting with the tent company to making sure the musical artists are lined up and have water and are ready to sing. And it's an honor to be sort of part of this tentpole event. And so we've got a history in the organization of other artistic event endeavors. And so we've built up some good experience. And so that's my role, is to make sure things go smoothly and you don't see me or...
That's right. We only know if something's going wrong, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I remember when Folk Art Market started, and they were talking about different ways to make Spanish market stand out, because we have so many markets. Sometimes there's a shuffle. And one of the folk art founders, who always was a big supporter of Spanish market, suggested that you have red and gold, so that the tents look like the Spanish flags, or not the tents, the booths.
Right.
So that's just my free idea for you guys.
Thank you. Good idea.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to collect ideas to try to reinvent it a bit.
Yeah.
Bring it a little bit back, maybe to its origins, possibly. Also, maybe introduce things that are more Spanish than ever before.
Yeah.
So that it becomes more authentic into its name, into its art form.
Yeah, that will be interesting, because it's one of those things that we all have ideas about what Spanish colonial art is, and then
Yeah.
you find out that you go to Spain and they don't recognize what we do.
Right.
But we took it in the frontier, and instead of gold, they used straw for the crosses.
That's right.
Instead of, fancy paints for the retablos or bultos, they, crushed their little flowers and made the paints and
Tin for
Yeah.
silver. And
yes.
all those, we were a more modest art form, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or maybe the Spanish had already run away with all our gold. Who knows?
Yeah, Carmela Padilla, who obviously knows a ton about this stuff, said, remember, so much of the great works were made during the Mexican period, too.
Yeah.
So it's a long number of years.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I guess the tin didn't get here till the Americans got here.
Yeah. It's been interesting learning about it. There are 19 art forms or categories of art forms
Right.
that we deal with. And that's, like you were saying earlier, you didn't know your grandmother was an artist. We didn't know all these art forms existed prior to our involvement.
Yeah.
The Spanish market. I mean, we knew a few, but not.
You had a
19.
Lady of Guadalupe or San Pascual in your kitchen or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's been fun just learning,
Right.
learning a little bit more about our history, really.
Yeah, that's something that's so important. I know when I wanted doll furniture, she took tin cans and hammered them out and made me doll furniture.
Wow.
So learning how it was the cans coming that people learned to use the tin for the crosses and stuff was another moment where I thought my grandma was pretty smart. How did you guys come to do Spanish Market? And it's very recent transition.
Yes, this will be our second summer market. So we transitioned it in April of 2023. So it's only been a little over a year.
Mm-hmm.
How did it come to be? It came to be because one of the more prominent Spanish market artists, her brother, was doing business with us. We had hired out his marketing firm. Here he's a marketing.
All right. Was it Arlene?
Cisneros
Yep.
Design
Yep.
and Marketing. And that's Fred Cisneros, and his sister is Arlene.
That's right.
So we're hiring a marketing firm because we at Atrisco had been working since our sale of our land grant, kind of rebuilding who we were. And now we were finally getting to a point where we said, we need to tell the world who we are, what we've built. So we engaged a marketing firm, and they're getting to know us. They're listening to what we do and what we, how we go about things. And Fred pulled me to the side after our business meeting. He goes, I want to talk to you about something.
Oh, that's a great story. Oh.
Yeah, and he starts telling me the story of SCAS and the market, and the museum, and the artists, and all that was going on with this, and so that's the beginning of it. And one conversation led to another, and then we kind of went quiet for a few months until a divorce needed to take place. I think.
Right.
And then we entered the picture.
Yeah, I like that story because Fred is really important because he's been a backer of Spanish Market for so many years.
Yes.
And when his sister, who became, Santera, Arlene Cisneros Sena, was a cake baker, he said, you're really a good artist. And he took her to a Spanish Market or took her to things. And the next thing you knew, Arlene was painting herself and became, who she is now.
Right.
And everyone in Santa Fe was really sad because their favorite cake baker was gone.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good story.
She's something.
Well, she was going to be good at whatever she did, right?
No, she's so precise and so just creative.
Yeah.
It always shows. And I think she and some of the other artists were ready to just take it over themselves.
Yeah, they entertained that idea for a while.
Yeah.
They were just looking for a new direction. And when we started to speak with them and get to know them, it turns out we had a lot in common. Our backgrounds, what we do for a living, who we represent as people.
Right.
We're the same.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing. But then there were all kinds of common spaces and places that we had known each other. Like I went to University of New Mexico with one of the artists, and he remembered me.
Nice.
So we, and even though it's been 30 years since that time,
You had these commonalities.
Yeah. So we just started finding this common ground, and then we worked it out. The biggest part of it was having the engagement with SCAS and then being chosen as the company to pursue from their board.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Because they're handing it off and it's something important and they want to make sure it's taken care of.
And there were other choices. And so we were really grateful and humbled by the fact that we were the choice.
Nice. And on that note, we'll take a quick break and be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
Thanks, Inez. This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. We hope you're enjoying this episode of Conversations Different with Inez Russell Gomez. Great local content is only possible with a talented staff dedicated to bringing you the best local content possible. For that staff to do its work, we need your support by subscribing to the Santa Fe New Mexican. If you're already a subscriber, thank you. And if not, there's never been a better time to subscribe. In addition to our home-delivered newspaper that comes with full digital access, we also provide digital-only subscriptions for SantaFeNewMexican.com. We'll also be releasing more online-only audio and video programming moving forward. The Santa Fe New Mexican has been here for nearly 175 years, and we want to continue being your source for local news and information. Visit us at SantaFeNewMexican.com/subscribe or call us at 505-986-3010. Thank you.
It's a new day in New Mexico, and the doors to boundless opportunity are open as tens of thousands of New Mexicans reach higher to pursue a dream, broaden their horizons, and retrain for a better job. With the New Mexico Lottery and Opportunity Scholarships, you could build yourself a better future anywhere in the state. You put in the hard work, we'll help with the costs. For eligibility details, visit reachhighernm.com.
We are back with Conversations Different, speaking to Peter Sanchez and Brian O'Connell about this year's traditional Spanish market. Brian, let's get some kind of details out of the way. When is it? Where is it? I know, but let's tell everybody else.
Well, it's on Santa Fe's Historic Plaza, July 27th and 28th, Saturday and Sunday, the last weekend in July. It's always free of charge, so we always make sure people know that. It's a free experience that the City of Santa Fe, the community of market artists, and the Atrisco Heritage Foundation invites everybody to come and be a part of.
Right. And if you always remember, and contemporary Spanish market
Correct.
or Hispanic market is down Lincoln.
Exactly.
So
right.
there's a wealth of experiences just in that one weekend.
Absolutely. We're good neighbors with them. Our footprint is really on the plaza, and they're all the way down Lincoln and adjoining streets, so you can really get a real holistic experience. All the food is on Washington, and
Nice.
There'll be music on the bandstand both days.
Right. So you can go, even if, let's say, you don't have a bunch of money this week, you can go shop, experience,
Absolutely,
and just enjoy yourselves.
So it really is. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's something for the whole family. It's a park-like experience, and then even if you're not in the market to buy some art, you're going to meet somebody you know.
Yes.
You're going to see your neighbor's kid who's dancing, and it's just a really kind of warm community experience.
No, I think that's true. And especially because not all the artists are from Santa Fe or even New Mexico. We have some from Southern Colorado. Mm-hmm. So there might be people you see once a year, and it's going to be, under the portal in the corner where they're usually at.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you went to a Spanish market?
Well, I am sad to tell you it was last year.
Okay. Well, Albuquerque and Santa Fe are far apart.
Yeah.
We
But
are.
I had my first experience just last year, and it was wonderful. I've been missing a lot.
Yeah.
I'm happy to experience Santa Fe a lot more than I ever did. I've been coming up here now since this merge between our organizations, much more to Santa Fe than I ever have. As a matter of fact, I was just here this past weekend. So just for me, living in Albuquerque, it's helped me to explore more of our northern part of the state and get to know another art form. Like Brian said, we manage an art form already, and so this is a new one, and it's a new experience for us.
And how about you, Brian? Had you been to Spanish Market before Atrisco Foundation came in?
Once in early college. I'm a native Albuquerquean myself,
right.
and had worked in Santa Fe for years, so in the early part of my career. So every festival weekend, I'd go down and check it out a little bit, but then I'd be back in town for the weekend. But always knew that it was special. I mean, working in Santa Fe when it's market season,
Yes.
and the first few start happening, and the whole energy changes of the whole downtown area, and people start getting excited, and so it was really neat to get plugged into it. And I've been lucky to have a wide-ranging experience in New Mexico and seen many communities, got friends and neighbors kind of everywhere. So just being a part of this is like, I think Peter and I share that we've always wanted to elevate experiences for New Mexicans that they might not be able to get anywhere else.
Right.
That's a big part of what Atrisco is about. So just to be able to put some energy into it and some thought as a friendly neighbor is a real rewarding part of my job.
That's a great goal, because there's no secret that Spanish market artists had felt neglected, for a number of reasons. And I think having people excited about what they do and wanting the world to see it is really important.
Yes. And we really believe that we want to give it as much effort to try to broaden its future opportunities too.
Yeah.
And we immediately started to look into ways to nurture and support the youth markets, for example, because that's our future.
Yeah.
I absolutely want to help the current modern Spanish market artists, but we're looking to the youth as well.
No, that makes sense, because a lot of the top youth winners did not stay in market for whatever reason. And I know for a number of years when I was trying to expand the types of art I had, I would always get the top youth winner because I could afford it, for one thing. And I always thought they're going to go on to be a star, and maybe you get them early. But some of them never came back. So I have a great piece, but I wish I'd seen their careers blossom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can make a difference and help it become bigger than it is today.
Yeah, once upon a time, they had a really interesting program where they took Spanish market artists from New Mexico, and I think they went by train, but they went to St. Augustine. So they were sharing, Spanish colonial art forms from New Mexico with people in Florida, where the oldest city actually was, even though it was not really continually inhabited. We say here in Santa Fe,
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But so there were a lot of different things happening. It was an exciting, I think this is like the 90s. It was kind of exciting stuff going on.
Good.
Well, we really have a commitment to make the market more than just a weekend. The traditional Spanish market is a community.
Yes.
And it's a year-round community, and it's thriving, and it's got a lot more than just what you see on that weekend in July. So we're really excited about exploring where the artists want to take those traditions and new innovations. And so it's a big part of what I'm thinking about in the off season is how do we build a bridge those youth artists that they age out of youth and maybe they're not quite ready to be a full-blown market artist. Let's build a bridge to that.
Okay.
And let's let them have, they're going to go to college and they're going to have career, and then they're going to come back to the art form. So I want to make sure that bridge is always in place for them to be ready to step right back in when they're ready. And that's going to take year-round experiences and opportunities.
No, that makes sense. And that's one of the things, Indian market does so well is that it looks at, because so many of those people, that's what they do. It's not like their second career after they're engineers by day or whatever.
Exactly.
So how do you make that possible, for an art form that perhaps isn't as well understood?
Right.
And, we've had people that come and say, well, why is it all religious art? And you have to explain the basis of where the art came from, or why is it this way? And it's a real interesting process to expose people to what the art form is about, how it formed, and why it's still the way it is.
Well, one of the best ways to do that is you have to create commercial opportunities for the artists so that they can make a living doing this. So one of the first things we did this year, and it's live now, is we built the very first website dedicated to Spanish market.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it never had one. It had a page on
With
a website.
The names, yeah.
Yeah, but now it has its own website. And we're beginning the second phase of this to build out, even though the website's live and full of great information. But ultimately, it's going to be a sales channel for market artists year-round.
Right.
Where you can go in, observe art and artists, and link into an opportunity to purchase if that's what you choose to do. So it's a sales channel, a digital sales channel, giving 24/7 52 weeks of the year opportunity.
That's awesome, because it's like Charlie Carrillo now will do a piece and he'll say, this is for sale, and he sells it right away usually because he's Charlie Carrillo. But that's something everybody will have.
Right.
Yeah.
And having a hub,
Yes.
one location that you can go to instead of trying to locate all those 150 artists who are not necessarily connected unless you know who they are, which most people don't know them all.
No, they don't.
So
They
going
don't.
to a hub where they're all located and you connect from one space, that makes sense.
That's going to be an incredible opportunity, and it's another way. I always tell people the markets are full of small business people, and these are people who, when they go home, because most of them do live in this area, are spending their money, they're buying their school clothes for their kids. We're helping the economy of Santa Fe and of northern New Mexico and of Albuquerque really operate.
No doubt. And if we can continue to build on that, we're bringing in foreign dollars,
Yes.
so to speak, into this community, not just Santa Fe, but even Albuquerque and New Mexico as a whole, because buyers come from all over the country.
They do.
So that's the best kind of money for us as New Mexicans, right?
No, and it's important, because that way I tell people who love folk art as much as, and I love folk art market too, but I said, if you want to keep cities thriving, go to Cordova and buy wood carvings, because they're struggling to stay in their culture just as much as anybody across the ocean.
You need to introduce more currency into those communities, into those ecosystems, in order to help them grow and thrive.
Yeah. And on that note, we'll take a quick break and be back again with Conversations Different.
My name is Maria Jose Rodriguez Cadiz, and I am the Executive Director with Solace Sexual Assault Services. Our mission is to prevent sexual violence and empower survivors of sexual violence through restoring dignity, strength, and resiliency. For almost 51 years, Solace has reduced the impact of sexual violence. We do it by focusing on human rights, social justice, hope, and dignity. We believe survivors are experts in their own experiences and acknowledge that empowering them is crucial to their healing. Our advocacy, forensic interviewing, and therapy services are centered to their needs. Our sexual violence prevention programs in schools and community is just as important. Please check our website at findsolace.org. And if in need, you can call our 24/7 hotline, which is 800-721-7273. Your support is crucial to the lives of survivors. Thank you. Gracias.
We are back again with Conversations Different, talking about the 2024 traditional Spanish market. Brian, you might know the answer to this. I know because you guys came in fairly late in the game last year. The usual preview, those kinds of things didn't happen.
Right.
But what's happening this year?
So we were able to do a reception for the artists because we were so new. We really wanted to cement those relationships and have a little event of just kind of welcoming each other to this new relationship. And that was a great event. In a lot of ways, people enjoyed the sort of family atmosphere of that. And so what we've done this year is we're adding a gallery element to our reception.
Okay.
So it's not a full-blown preview. It's not the emphasis on high roller buyers, but it's a way for us to come together, get together, enjoy each other before the kind of madness of the weekend, but also to show just one piece per artist who wants to. It's all optional, and have that kind of gallery element so everybody can get together again and see what their peers have been working on and see what looks good. And then there will be just a small number of awards. What we're finding is the slate of awards, having a first, second, and third in 19 categories is very difficult to find investment for. And it sort of muddies the water of the value of the art to the artists. I had been in an organization that was an award-giving organization, and it always created a sort of plume of disappointment that I
that's
was always
interesting.
thinking about. So now we're going to have very few awards that are very specific. The judging for that will happen at the gallery event. So that's just for the artists. It's not to the public. It's a great way to kick off the weekend, get everybody back together, hi, how you doing? And then we're going to go be in our booths.
Okay, is the gallery event going to be at the Civic Center or where does that?
Yeah, it's at the Community Convention Center.
Okay.
Nice. Luckily the weather's been good to us so far, and so we have our reception on that beautiful courtyard they have, and we'll have the gallery in a couple of the
Nice.
meeting rooms.
But is there a place for the public? Because the beauty of the old reception was that I could go and see the best of the best together
Right.
in one place. And you don't
Right.
get that unless you gather it in one place.
Right. We have not built back to that scale yet.
Okay.
So again, that's something that we're looking forward to trying to rebuild with more community investment, more sponsorship dollars, things like that. But we're on the way.
Okay, and will there be a lifetime achievement person again?
A master
Yeah.
has been selected. So
Okay.
the community of artists, if you have been named a master, they actually came together and went through a discernment process. And that's actually going to be announced through the New Mexican in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah, one of the ways we came to figure out our cover for Spanish Market is I sort of didn't like picking one artist over another. So what we did is the master was always the cover all the years I did it, because that way I knew who it was. I could go get a story. And then they started, it was a secret. And then when Donna was the chair of Spanish Colonial Arts Society, she started announcing it at a reception ahead of time, which I thought was more fun to announce in the magazine. But that, it all worked out, and that got donors and people ahead of time. So, there's different ways to do it.
So we'll be recognizing that master at the reception.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's, I think, something not just that people like to see, but that was so deserved. Because, some of your masters are also National Endowment for the Arts fellows and honorees, at a real large level.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a way for that community of artists to continue refining and defining what they mean by traditional Spanish colonial art. If that community isn't defining what it is, nobody else can.
Right.
And so that's a way to recognize somebody's life in the work and set up exemplars for people to follow.
That's right. And that leads me, this is kind of in the weeds, I'm sorry, audience, but how do you define the standards now? Did you keep the old standards and transfer them? Or because that was always a bone of contention, or could be.
And can be difficult. And so we have just decided, because we had the liberty of being the new stewards, to start from the most recently adopted guidelines by category. So that's our reference. And we're going through a process of we had our first jurying event this past year, so we were able to jury 41 new artists in, I think, 4 categories. We have to phase in our jurying because we don't know enough to do the whole thing at once.
Okay.
And as we're doing that, we're going to bring the artist community together to make sure they check in on those guidelines and understand them and make sure they're still relevant for their work. What we found is there was a lot of controversy about the guidelines, but then when you read them, there's actually, if you're reading them, there's actually quite a bit of room for inclusion and innovation even within categories. But we still have to have some discussions about, and this is for the artists to decide, certainly not us as the new stewards, but what defines traditional? And it's such a fascinating question, and it's going to be a constantly evolving discussion. And the world has changed, right?
Yes.
If we demand natural beads, can you still find natural beads? You know what I mean? Maybe, maybe not. So those are the things we're going to open our ears to the artist community and learn.
So what has been the most interesting thing, Peter, that you've learned about traditional Spanish arts?
Well, I just think it's wonderful how it's intertwined with our own history and our state. And it's something that emerged out of the frontier efforts, 400 years ago, as we began to emigrate and populate New Mexico, non-native people. And so it became its own art form. It's like it's in a time warp of sort. It gets to become something unique because you can't go back to Spain and find this, or Mexico necessarily. So I love the fact that it's so unique and it's born out of our own state history.
Yes. And to me, it's about people adding beauty you have a little tablecloth and the wife would, put a flower on it. You had a church and it was unadorned and someone would make a bulto or carve, a statue for it, the cross for it and everything else. And it was like we were going to bring our faith, beauty in a harsh, harsh land, however we could.
Yeah, so I guess, they always say that adversity creates beauty. I think that's what happened here.
Oh.
It was a tough way to start a life here, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But from it became this beautiful art form that we get to enjoy today.
Oh, and on that note, this has been another Conversations Different. We'll be back next week.